Zebra Products is the UK's leading distributor of premium equestrian brands catering for horse and rider. From Veridus, Amerigo, Sprenger, Akeep, Uvex and many more leading brands, Zebra's impressive portfolio includes clothing, saddles and accessories, boots for horse and rider, care products, horse rugs and helmets. Head to zebraproducts.co.uk to see where you can purchase their products from, which will help you stay ahead of the herd. Are you looking for a super stylish riding helmet that also offers you excellent comfort and is developed using the latest technology? Well, whether you're a seasoned competitor travelling the world or a leisure rider enjoying spending time with your horses or ponies at weekends, Uvex has riding helmets to suit all requirements. The Uvex collection provides the perfect combination of style and safety with high-quality materials, appealing designs, optimal fit and ultimate comfort. Protecting people is the core philosophy of Uvex, and that is exactly what they strive to do. Visit zebraproducts.co.uk to find out more. Just a little note before you get into this European preview show. We actually recorded this last week, but the breaking news this morning, Monday morning, as the show is about to be released, is that unfortunately Thomas Carlyle and Bermain are not able to take part in the competition. We're absolutely gutted for Tom and all of his connections, so our heart goes out to him. But please just be aware, when you're listening to this, there are some references, obviously, to Bermain, one of the hot favourites, but it was recorded prior to that news being broken. Anyway, let's get on with the show.
We're getting an Olympic Games.
Tokyo. And the countdown is on.
Quarantine in Tokyo.
Big moment this.
I'm excited.
To win gold.
The Olympic Games, how exciting.
2 rounds of short jumping.
Tokyo.
Top class eventing. The team of 3.
Big day.
I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it.
Tokyo specials.
It is spectacular.
Tokyo.
Tokyo.
This episode of the Eck Ratings Eventing podcast is very kindly brought to you by Zebra Products, the UK leading distributor of premium equestrian brands catering for horse and rider.
Only once since 1964 has the dressage leader gone on to win.
And who's going to do it? Who is going to make it happen when they're on the wrong stride? You know, Philip Dutton at Rio getting over that fence, you know, all this sort of stuff is going to be what gets medals.
Welcome to the Eck Ratings Eventing podcast, and it is the first of our Tokyo preview shows. Oh, there was a time, listeners, that I thought that those words would not be coming out of my mouth, but I'm so excited that they are. It is finally nearly here. So let's talk Tokyo. I have 2 of the best guests to preview the competition, and we are going to split it into 2 shows because we could not get it all into one show. It would be far too much, listeners, for you to take and far too much for us to take. So we will be focusing on the European side of things to get things started, and then the rest of the world preview show will be following on very shortly as well. But first of all, Dee, how are you? Are you ready?
I think this is where it's all at. This is the show, really. I mean, we're going to come to it in a moment. We're going to talk to our other guest about it, who, as we know, is a huge supporter of not necessarily things European, but, well, of Britain, I suppose is the best way of putting that. And Britain, in this context, sit within Europe. And Britain is the big favourite. Germany sits in Europe, at the heart of it. France, the defending champions, at the heart of it. And Nicole, you can go all the way back, I think, as far as probably, the year 2000, when we last saw kind of it's about that, I'd say, is it? So when we last saw non-European medals of any, they've won, let me see.
They've won individual
certainly
medals.
Wins. Certainly goals is what? France 04, Germany, and then France. Kiwis and the Aussies have won the odd silver and the odd gold. But yeah, it's all about Europe. I mean, I think the next show maybe we'll talk about Australia a little bit, but I think we're picking our winners here, Nicole. I think we're talking about team goals today.
Oh God, that makes me all goosebumpy. Listeners, we will actually be having a full-on podium show. So we won't be doing podiums at the end of this show. That is saved for a whole different ball game. But our second guest. We have dragged him in from his family holiday. Spike, we appreciate your dedication to the cause.
Oh my God, you don't have to drag me in to preview the Olympics. I can't tell you how excited I am. It's finally here, as you say. We wondered whether it's still going to happen. God forbid nothing bad happens in the next however long when it's out there with this stupid COVID. But yeah, it's going to be amazing. And I think we're probably going to be previewing the team gold. And I would probably be agreeing there with Dee, and we'll talk about it in due course. But yeah, come on. It's going to be so amazing. It's going to be
Nicole, what day does this go out?
So it will be out the week before the Olympics.
That's next.
So you're saying this could age really badly, really quickly.
Do we know what?
Yeah.
No. Do we know what day it is? Do you know what day it's going?
Let me refer to my schedule, Dee. I'll be honest, listeners, our schedule is jam-packed. Monday the 26th, it is penciled in for.
Monday 26th. Okay, so still early enough in the week. I think that's important context for us to know as we're saying this, because there's just so much wildness that's coming. But okay, Nicole, take it away. Let's get straight in because
okay. Let's just dive in. So, listeners, we actually thought about the best way to approach this because we didn't want to leave anybody out. So we're going to cover every single country across the two podcasts. The European show, the Rest of the World show will be out very shortly, later in the week on Wednesday. I'm putting myself out there by giving you all the exact dates, but it will be out in the next couple of days. So let's start with the defending champions, because France have won 2 of the last 4 Team Olympic gold medals. They are notorious for being very quiet about their preparations at home in France. They tend to stay at home, go about their business, and then come out all guns blazing when it comes to a championship, having had a lovely time at the beach as part of their quarantine process. There's been a couple of changes to their team in so much as King de Brio, who would have been a real linchpin of their squad with Thibaut Villette, have withdrawn. That news was already out. And also Babylon de Gama Astier Nicolas, who would have been one of the sort of favourite young guns coming through, also not lining up. So the team at the time of recording: Nicolas Touzon, absolute gold; Thomas Carlyle, Bermain; Christopher Six, Totem de Bressy. I would say those 3 French riders mean business. I think the French are very, very, very strong. Very strong.
Well, I'm going to just agree. Okay, Dee sounds undecided, but I think they're really strong, and I think, as Nicole said, the French are sneaky. You know, they hide over in France, and they run in their own national events, and we can't look them up, and we can't see what's going on. But the record we've got, and even with the horses that aren't there, the two big name horses that aren't there, that Nicole mentioned, I think this is a strong trio they've got. I think it's a really strong trio. They've got Thomas Carlyle, who's had his first Olympics with Bermain, the wonderful mare, really, really strong, high up there on the prediction centre. But I think, with the experience of Nicolas Touzon, and then a bit of the wild card is, with Christopher Cease, Totem de Bressy, who's not done a 5-star.
Christopher Cease.
Yeah, I stumbled a bit. First 5-star for the horse, but got a superb record at 4-star. Again, a real jumping machine, and looks that's going to be where the strength is, and it's going to be so important, isn't it? Jumping clear on both days. That's going to be such a key, and I think that's what they're looking for here.
I think they're good. They're not great. That's my honest assessment. Just in terms of I think they are sneaky. I give them that. In that you have to be very careful about relying on data alone for the French in an Olympic year. So I'm not going to get caught out with that and just saying straight up looking at 2020 results or looking at 2019 results, because they, as we know, tend to be quite picky about what they do in a championship year. And they're, as you alluded to, Spike, they're all experienced or kind of wild cardy. As you both alluded to, it would be.
I think they're always better when they're a little bit less. Hopefully it's us in this side of the media giving them a bit of pressure, but they went to the Moulin Europeans with a bit more sort of high pressure on them, a bit more high profile horses and combinations, and sort of were a bit flaky. And here they, when they're under the radar, admittedly with some quality horses. and I wouldn't underestimate them.
But we shouldn't really let them be under the radar. They're defending champions. Do you know what I mean? Like, where are we putting them under the radar? Like, we know they're sneaky. You're not going to catch us with that Chatsworth thing again that you did in 2016, where they give us one international and then they all go home. So we know that they're good. I suppose I just think that there's bigger and better European nations. And I'm trying to not get caught out by that. Bermain, I think, is a big shot. They haven't won that many individual medals. They've got one horse there in Bermain that I think she could be a big enough wild card. I think the other two, I think they're good, solid team horses. Like, France have 2 team medals of the last 4 Olympics. 2 team golds, isn't it, of the last 4 Olympics?
Yeah, 2 team golds of the last 4 Olympics.
Only one individual medal. I think since 1984 anyway, probably back further. But they've only got that silver at the last one as their only individual medal. So I think they're a team just based on history. I think there's only one. I think it's only Bermain, if I'm honest, that has an individual shot here. Every single team, we're going to be bored to tears saying this, every single team has a medal chance here. The French are somewhere, I'd say, around, I can tell you they're about 20 to 25% chance. But they're about 4th or 5th in the list for me.
It's interesting, actually. I was just looking it up. So Bermain is a big, big shot. For Tom Carlyle, it's his Olympic debut. The horse is only a 10-year-old. She was runner-up at Saumur earlier this year in a long format behind a horse that we will talk about a little bit later on in this show. But she's done 3 long formats now at 4-star level, and she's been in the 20s in all of them, clear cross country in all of them, very close to the time, and only had 1 pole down across them. So her record is very, very good. She leads the charge. Nicolas Touzon he's been selected for 4 Olympics. He didn't get to compete in Hong Kong, but he's a double European champion. I would cast your minds back to a show we did. I can't remember what it was now. And Sam was basically saying, form is temporary, class is permanent. And he's had quite a few years, but he is back, and it's his first Olympic Games since London. Wasn't in Rio. I would say he would be an excellent talisman of their team. And then you've got the young gun in Christopher Six, who was 4th individually at the European Championships. He was a hair's breadth off a medal in Le Moulin with this horse, Totem de Bressy. They are a very, very strong team, but they all perhaps have that little bit to prove on the Olympic stage. Nicolas Touzon, he's been to a number of Olympics, but the horse is Olympic first timer. Many of them are. But
he's not. I tell you what, he's not sitting on Galant de Sauvager here.
No, he's not.
He's not. Like, I agree with you in terms of the kind of experience that Nicola has, and that it's not going to be a surprise. He's not going to be overawed by Tokyo. That much is for sure. But Galant de Sauvager, we know, what was it, 2004, I think, was the 19.6 test, second best ever behind David O'Connor custom made. This isn't Galant de Sauvager. This is a very different type of a horse, this, insofar as you're probably more likely to start in those high 20s and possibly finish on them. He is last 3 internationals have all been FODs, 2 of them 4-star longs, and again, being very careful with looking at French form for too long in an Olympic year. No internationals for them in 2021. I just think Christopher Cease and Totem and Nicolas Touzon and Absolute Gold, they're 28, 29, hoping to finish on it.
Okay, right then.
And that's not a bad solid team horse. No,
it's good team.
What team score are we going to need for a gold?
Yeah.
When I first modelled this, and I say I had nothing to do with it. Sean Murray did it. So I quickly corrected myself, and I was honest. When I first asked Sean Murray to do this calculation, he came back with a team score of 90 was what he thought would win gold.
So that was an average of 30 per combination.
Yeah. And here's the interesting thing, lads. That was actually done sometime last year, and that was done a long time before you knew the teams. So what he was doing was he was taking like the top 3 combinations per nation, and he was basically putting them into a simulation. So if we took the top 3 rated combinations per nation and then run the competition at this level this many times, this is what the winning score tends to be at, around 90, the silver around 100, and the next one around 120 or something along those lines. So that was what he was working on. What's interesting is that it's gotten further out when he's actually got the actual teams. And maybe that's quite an obvious thing to say. It basically, the top 3 horses per nation don't make it. That's not how it works in real life. So probably when you were looking at Ireland, you might have been looking at, when he was looking at the top 3 rated, maybe ELO horses per nation, or even let's just take France because we're talking about them. It probably would have had King de Brio in there. It probably would have had... who's the other boy? Babylon de Gama would have been in there for France. But obviously they're not there now. So what he's actually come back to me with is it's closer to like 100, 110, 120, I think, as your 3 scores. Now, the only thing...
now that's fascinating, D, because you would say that pretty much all of those teams would be capable of getting below 100. So what it really comes down to is those field of play conditions. Who are the combinations that you really trust to be getting as close to their form, and what have they shown at what level under pressure? And they're in an odd environment out there in bubbles and face masks and Tokyo and all the other things that are going to be, thrown into the mix here. And, if we're saying they need to be under 100 and they're pretty close to a gold medal, you'd look at the numbers and you go, like the Brits or the Germans or even the French or the Kiwis, the Aussie, whatever team here, you go, add them all up, they should be below 100. But it's the 100%. The moments, the half strides here and that, and I think that's what we've got to focus on: are the characters and who's going to do it, who is going to make it happen when they're on the wrong stride. Philip Dutton at Rio getting over that fence. All this sort of stuff is going to be what gets medals.
Yes,
and I hate to get away from the stats, but that's who we got to be trusting.
No, you're 100% right.
The team scores previously have all been with a drop score. They've all been able to drop a score, whereas the team scores here, every 3 counts. So
even in Rio, a 20 for the Germans got them a team medal. Two 20s.
220s got them a team medal. I'd put this out there. So, fun fact for you, Spike: what is the best ever finishing score for a team at an Olympics? Give us a number.
Best ever finishing score.
Best ever finishing score for a team at an Olympics. This is converted, so all using the current scoring system.
See, I'd like to think it would be around the 90 mark, which is something that you always aim for when you're doing these teams. And so let's say 91.
Whoa.
Not bad.
Well done, Peter.
Very good. At 92.8. Came in London, but it came to Team GB, even though they finished second.
Oh, I love that fact.
Yeah, because Germany actually finished on 93.2, but if you took into account the changes to the dressage scoring system and the show jumping scoring system, Team GB, if it was as it is today, would have finished ahead of them. So there we go. Anyway, okay, so we're looking for sub 100. Is that what we're sort of thinking is going to end up winning the gold, D? Is that where we got to?
Yeah, I think it'll be sub 100. There's one or two things I want to say on that. Firstly, I completely agree with what Spike is saying here, in that there's no high performance rider or team that thinks that they can't deliver 3 counting scores of 33. There's none of them. I wouldn't say there's a person at the Olympics who thinks they can't do a 33. That's just the way these high performance people are bred. But one of the big services and things that Equirators do in this world, the equestrian world or the eventing world, is that what you believe, which is I've delivered a 25 dressage before, I've been clear inside the time before, and I have show jump clear before. Actually, the amount of times you've done that on the same day are way less than you think. Actually, the amount of times that you've no one, like not that many, like 1 in 10 will PB at a big championship like this. So you're not going to do the best that you've ever done. You're probably going to do pretty close to what you've always done, which means that I think Peter is right in that you can go on the data as a guide. And I think when we're talking about this, we have got to actually get into things like...
It's tough, D, because we're going to have to talk about character. We're going to have to talk about,
it's hard,
but the stuff that we don't talk about a lot, the individuals and who do you trust?
From it? Upsilon went to the Europeans. Like Tom is a good friend of ours. Upsilon went to the Europeans and he had that 20 as probably my favorite for it.
Yeah.
Krajewski
never went a yard.
Krajewski at the others. Philip Dutton making it happen, but Philip Dutton's had a mare at Aachen before under pressure as well. So like none of them are immune from this. Boyd Martin is going in here as like, by the way, US have a massive shout on the numbers. They're actually kind of third ahead of...
We're not talking about the US here.
What I'm saying, you're right, though. Sorry, what I'm saying...
Save yourself for the other show.
What I'm saying is that we do have to get into this kind of hard piece. And I think this is a good, honest conversation to have at the start of these shows, where like, if we were just to go through all the numbers, yeah, they can all do a 30. Nearly every rider we're going to talk about can do a 30. But who's going to do it? And who are the three that are going to put it together? And then there's this one big thing, Peter, is the other thing when you say the conditions. I know you've done some great whole box shows. I know they're talking about the heat and like who's going to be first to go. Let's not forget about that in terms of individual medals. That could play a big part. But then I don't want to focus too long on it, because if you remember, Nicole, we spent so long talking about the hill and the humidity at Tryon. Yeah. And then the hurricanes. Sure, it just so happened that like they all skipped around it.
Yeah.
And I don't say that lightly, because I'm someone who doesn't compete. So I don't just want to be dismissive of they all skipped around it. But in data terms, they did. 65, 70% clear rates, 25 people making the time or whatever it was. They are skipping around it. So
yeah, but I think they over-prepared because of that. And I think because London bit a lot of a bunch of federations, because that had a hill early on, and we had some tired horses at London. So I think there was a lot of very, very good preparation for WEG because of that reputation. And I would like to think there'll be a lot of very good preparation for Tokyo.
Good prep, but do you think it's possible that they'll be so concerned? I mean, they as in De Grazia, the FEI, the IOC. Do you think they'll be so concerned about the humidity and the conditions here that there's no, and by the way, the inclusion of all the flags, that I think there's a big possibility that it's definitely not a Kentucky 4-star short, which means that I think you're much more likely to see your top European horses in the first phase coming to the fore and popping around potentially across country. All those boys, Tom McEwen and London 52 and Vasily de Lassos, they can all jump clear. They'll all do double rounds of jumping, no problem. So actually it's all about this first phase for them.
I would love to say that, because I completely understand where you're coming from. For anybody who doesn't get the Kentucky 4-star reference, basically the 4-star short in Kentucky this year caused a lot of problems. I think less than 1 in 2 jumped clear on the cross country, which, it was
1 in 3 maybe, yeah.
Yeah, so it was really tough. I would say that I would like to think that there will be plenty of options for people that have had a problem, for people that are looking to get a clear round, that will cost a lot of time. So those, I would like to think it would still be a tough enough Olympic track, but also that's when the pressure gets put on people because, they're all in a strange environment. They've all got to go out there and deliver.
Totally agree, Nicole. Totally agree. And look where, Astier Nicolas was first to go for the French team and ended up being an individual medalist in Rio.
Nailed it.
Because if you are first to go, you actually have a little bit of a clear head and the team influence doesn't come in. And also remember, we're starting very early in the morning over there in Japan. So maybe you want your top cross-country horse to go last when it's at the hottest in the day. There's going to be a lot in what the tactics are, which might not be the route, the other way around. So I think, this side of it is fascinating. And we can keep talking about the horses as well. But we've talked a lot about the horses, but it's the tactics and it's how the actual sport is going to play out that I think is fascinating.
Yeah. And it's mentally going to be extremely tough. And that team of 3 is going to be extremely tough. Team tactics, your third man out, you've got to go out and get a clear round. They might be in individual gold position. Team orders are, you must go long at this water. that could cost an individual medal, but secure a team medal. It's going to be really, really interesting. It brings a whole new dynamic. So much rides on the Olympics, because this is funding for pretty much every nation there for the next 3 years through to Paris. You know, a lot of it hinges on this. And also, from a selfish perspective, we want eventing to continue to impress and be a brilliant sport at the Olympic Games. You know, it's not quite the format that we would see at badminton, but we still want people to tune in, enjoy it, because it really does mean something being part of the Olympics. Right, we've talked about France. Let's go on. We're going to have to keep moving.
It's so hard, isn't it, Nicole?
It's so difficult.
How can we stop talking about Bermain right now when she's a chance of taking Tom to his first Olympics and winning gold? He's the top-rated 10-year-old that's going to be at these games. Laporis is someone we'll talk about on the other show. He's 10 as well. Other than Asha P, you're not going to find a better 10-year-old in the sport, in my opinion. And that opinion is fully based on data. So just on data other people will fill in the blanks. But on data, Bermain is top quality. And he's such a good rider, waiting for this moment. Don't throw the data out the window, but don't be surprised if they are really, really seriously knocking on the door, probably like a 25-26 dressage, and hold your horse then cross country and show jumping. Bermain for me, definitely a dark horse, maybe even a bit insulting to say dark horse, maybe just a good.
Okay, I'm going to be bold. I'm putting a line through them.
All right, fine.
Okay, all right, Spike.
First 5-star for the rider in the Olympics. If he pulls it off, doff your cap. But first 5-star for the rider at the Olympics. Not got, how many, he's hugely talented, and I'm not questioning his character at all, but we don't know it. We don't have evidence to say this guy will leave the start box. And you can trust, he's not Nicholas Touzon, he's not Michael Young, he's
Thomas Carneal, baby.
He is, but I'm just saying, I like being controversial, because
I know, but listen,
and I know he's a friend of Equi-Ratings, but I would say
he's a friend of the European Union.
Spikes,
he's a friend of the European Union, and we support each other.
Let's go. Okay, one last thing on Bermain. If a mare wins, and we'll talk about another one for the German team in a moment, looking back, we think it is 1976, Montreal, Edmund Coffin and Ballycore, who were the last mare to top the individual podium. So that's something to keep an eye on as well.
This girl is the best chance. Bermain is the best chance of it happening.
Okay, let's talk about the Germans, because that will bring us on to another mare. First of all, let's talk about the fact that they have won 2 of the last 4. So France won in 2004, Germany in 08 and 12, and then France in Rio in 16. This man is the double Olympic champion. He has finished on his dressage score twice at the Olympic Games. He took his second string to Rio and actually topped the podium in La Via Statique Sam. Rides Fisher Chipmunk FRH, Michael Young. Is he going to win a third Olympic title, a record third Olympic title, and help lead the German team back to the top of the podium? D.
Yeah, I think he is the favourite. I can't not get involved with the emotion of a London 52, of a Toledo the Cursor, and that's purely because I'm surrounded by you two and every other single person that comes on our pod picks and everything, and because you see Laura and the great personality, and because we know Tom and the great personality, and because Ballamore Class and Oliver and all that, they're so close to us. They're on the front cover of Horse and Hound. They're on podcasts with us. That, for me, is something that I'm going to try and overlook here. I think year on year on year, we're taking this man for granted. Michael Young is the best rider of the last 20 years that we've seen in the sport. I don't think that can really be disputed. He had one of the top horses in Sam, but he's basically sat on a range of different horses and gone out and beaten people. Halunka at the Europans. Leopin used to go and beat people. Rakana went and did three Kentuckys. And now you've got another one here. I think you got to give a lot of credit to Julia, but Michael Young, is going to be and deserves to be the Olympic favourite, going to go and make it 3 in a row. So the first answer, I think, is yeah, he can and is most likely to go and win the individual medal. Can he lead the Germans back? This is where it gets good, Peter, because the Brits are favourites on data. We'll talk about the Brits at some point in the show. But the Brits are favourites. They've got 3 super horses and 3 super riders. And then you've got to say, all right, let's get in. Let's scratch back the surface and say what's underneath. We'll come into all of their characters. God, we'll have some crack on the psychologist chair now in a few minutes when we get to the Brits. And then we're going to do the same for the Germans, and we're going to say, well, does Michael Young make it happen when he needs to make it happen? I think he does. If you're going to pair that up, I think Townend is pretty similar. Do they make it happen over that fence? Like Philip Dutton as well, you mentioned, Peter. Do they make it happen when they need to make it happen? I think Michael Young makes it happen. I think you've got a massive battle between Julia and Laura in terms of pitching those two against each other. I think they're both very similar. I think they've both delivered massive results. I think they've both had big disappointments. The reason their disappointments are bigger and they're noticed is because they're usually after putting themselves on a 20 dressage and they're leading. That's the only reason that you notice it. Nearly every rider in the sport is having the same odd run out that these two are having, but it's an odd run out. It's just that they happen to do it at critical times when lots of other people get to not have it talked about because they're doing it when they're in the middle of the field. I think Julia against Laura is massive. I think Oliver against Michael is massive. And then I think you've got the world champion, Sandra Offart. Can she make it happen when she needs to make it happen? She absolutely can. I think there's great grit and determination in this, great character in this German group. We'll come back to the Brits. I think they have it as well. But I think there's great characters here. Can they finish on a score of... I think they need the Brits to make a mistake, but I think the Brits can make a mistake, which means I think, yeah, the answer is, will they do it? Who knows? Can they do it? I think they're fairly... I think this is a German team that we're not giving enough respect to. Maybe we are. Maybe I'm wrong. But they're very close.
Go on, Nicole. Give them some respect.
Yeah, I don't think we could not respect them. I would just put a couple of things out there. So if we're talking about Michael Young specifically in this moment, we can talk about the other two in just a second. Yeah. He has the second best 6-run average of dressage in the field, 22.3. Is the average of his last 6, and that includes that 28 in Babaroko that was quite out of character and a lot higher. It was quite a highly scored section. He has a 90% XCJ10, so he's been clearing 9 out of his last 10 internationals cross country on this horse. There was the problem at Le Moulin last year in the German National Championships that I think caught everybody by surprise. Obviously very fast, 94% opposition beaten percentage. One horse in the field that has higher is London 52 at 98%, which is completely bonkers. But the bit I want to focus on, we've often talked about this horse's show jumping, 2 rounds of show jumping. I've been guilty of it. Can he do it? Blah, 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 blah. Only 6 horses have an SJ6 of 0. And then the next set of horses have a SJ6 of 0.67. And he is among those. So he is very close to being one of the best show jumpers in the field at the Olympic Games. And we've got 2 rounds of show jumping, and he's that good. He's leading from the front. It's very, very, very
That's
hard.
A big shout as well.
To take away.
What, that he jumps double clear? Spike,
no, that he's leading from the front.
Yeah.
I don't think he's led an Olympics from the front. I don't think
he hasn't. No, he hasn't. He's always been a little bit behind. But Le Beer Sadiq Sam was very much that model, wasn't he? You know, he scored a 40.6 and a 40.9 old money, which equates to about 27-ish in today's money.
Very different horse, though, wasn't he? Like a very different horse, much more blood.
Horse. I would just put it out there. Diarm du Max, who Sandra Offort rides, and Sandra Offort is a world champion. She has been on the podium at the Olympic Games in London individually as well. She's has been a stalwart for the German team. Diarm du Max's jumping record is absolutely superb. So then we go on to Julia Krajewski and Amanda Bonneville, who, to be honest, have been the absolute dark horses of the German team, really, because I think Andreas Dubovsky, FRH Corrida, who are the fourth combination out in Tokyo, can feel a little bit disappointed that they've not made the German team. The Germans have taken a bit of a risk. FRH Corrida, very experienced. Andreas, very experienced. And pretty much you could go as close as you could to bet your house that they would jump a clear round in the cross country and pretty much a clear round in the show jumping. As close as any you could in this field, you could have done on that combination. And they've taken a bit of a gamble on Julia and Amanda Bonaville, another mare who actually won some Muir so impressively this year, beat a lot of those very good French horses, was in the top 4, I think, in Le Moulin in the German National Championships, but was just behind Michael Young and Chipmunk.
She was fifth. You can't be calling this a gamble. I'm going to have to stop.
I'd say it's a gamble. I'm with Nicole on this. I think it's...
What's a gamble about it? One cross-country fault in last 10 runs.
We're talking about...
25, 24, 23 is their last 3 dressage tests. If this
level below... But it's not Toledo de Curse. Toledo de Curse is doing it at 5-star repeatedly. This is a horse that's only been at 4-star.
I'll tell you something about locomotion. It's called locomotion something, okay? And Pete and
locomotion something.
Locomotion, do the locomotion. It's called. Let me get out my big long message from Sam. But basically, he said about breeding. And actually, you'll know all this as a vet. Okay, let's. We won't dig into it now. But it's basically around the big horses, and the 5-star horses might not be all as perfect as it seems, Peter, when you're trying to get around this type of track with a lot of obstacles in a short amount of time, humid. Like the 5-star form is one thing, but
but I think if you're a rider sitting in a star box about to go, and you're sat on a horse that's showed it at the highest level, on tough days, on tough tracks, you will just be going out right. in a brilliant frame of mind. And look at what happened. And look at what happened to the Brits in Rio. We took very, very flashy 4-star horses, and that bit them. Hey, what happens when they go and walk the courses? They've all got reserve horses there.
That happened in Germany, didn't it? That happened to actually this very rider, wasn't it, Julia? That got brought in when they got off the plane in Rio.
Yep.
I
think what if it's a tough track? Maybe Corrida comes in. I mean, I'm not saying it will. I'm not saying it will. I fear the Germans more with Corrida on the team.
Yeah.
You're both wrong. Amanda Bonaville has a massive chance at an individual medal. A horse that is.
Yeah, but we're not talking about individual. Well, we are talking about individual medals. But if you're looking at it as a team,
if you're talking about team medals, this is a horse that. Their last, they've got one mare in there in Stragom. They had a 20 penalties last year, but other than that, they're
come on, running around Stragom is absolutely nothing like running around Tokyo. I mean, with the dearest respects to the event, I've been there.
But I mean, you have to say it, like, you can only judge it against where all of them have gone. Like, Aston Lewalls is the same, Bergam is the same, but like, I can only work on what they're actually doing.
Yeah, but all the Brits ran around Bicton, and I'll tell you what, there won't be many horses going to Olympics that have seen that in 2021.
No.
That's true, but it might not be the best. I'd rather, I don't necessarily know that Bicton is going to be reflective of what you're seeing. I mean, they won't do it, but they won't have seen it, but it might not necessarily be the best prep for them either. Maybe Bicton was their big day, Peter. Did you ever consider that?
I do consider that, and I was going to bring it up when we talk about the Brits. That is.
We'll have to hold our horses then with the
hold
Brits.
Your horses on that.
Yeah, we'll decide where they sit in Europe after this.
I mean, I would agree with Nicole about it, but I think that there would be. I think you could pick the odd hole in this. Sandra is undoubtedly literally the coolest customer. I mean, you barely see an emotion on her whenever you see her out and about. But the horse has only once gone a 5-star, went to Weg, didn't get round. Granted, that was a few years ago, and it's going to be on and trained and produced further than that. But again, I think it's a horse in a combination that if Tokyo was last year, not sure if it had been right there or thereabouts. They've moved around the Germans in the last 9 months, and they've brought together a very, very talented trio. And I think they stand. I'm not saying they haven't got a brilliant chance and a superb 3, and they'll be led superbly by Michael Young.
I tell you what, they're not the favourites they would have been last year. That much is true. Imagine going there with Samurai, with probably Asha.
Just with Ingrid on anything, like just that experience. You know,
Samurai Detour Peter would have been the top.
Yeah, as well. I agree. Yeah,
you know, Samurai Detour would have been Olympic favourite, and then you would have had Asha P or Hale Bob, and probably Chipmunk, and that tree would have been out in front of any British tree. They would have been out and out favourites, I think. But you're right, this is a very, very different team. But when you spoke about character and having to scratch back beneath the surface, and the fact that any teams are going to be able to deliver those 3 scores of 30, these 3 for me have a lot of character. All 3 of them.
I think Julia is amazing, but she's not done it at the championships. I have Kieran in my ear.
She's won Aachen, Peter. She's won Aachen.
Yeah. I'll give you that.
We've had this conversation before on the podcast. We've had it plenty of times. There have been 3 championships for Julia: Rio, Stragom Europeans, and the World Equestrian Games in Tryon. None of the 3 have gone to plan, and she would have gone into all 3 in seriously hot form. That's not to say she's not capable of delivering on a big stage, because she absolutely is. But you look at that performance in comparison to that of Michael Young's performances at that level, and you know that is not a question he has to answer in Tokyo. So we're going to say the same about some other teams, particularly the Brits. We've got to talk about them yet, but it's just a question mark and something we have to raise and we talk about, because that's the whole point of this. I think it's fascinating. I mean, I couldn't go to the Olympic Games. I would completely be sat in a corner crying and rocking if somebody took me to the Olympics to ride and compete. So I'm not saying I could do any better, but...
none of us are saying that we can do any better. Like we are. No. I mean, like we're here to pick. We're here to play the game and to put the pressure on them.
I think the Germans, when it comes to character, when it comes to knowing how to win, when it comes to prepping, like running to win all the time, these 3 have all done it. They've all done it on the top stages. Oliver, they have. I know you 2 Brits are waiting to the end of this show, and I hope you're able to apply the same now to your British team. But this is an Aachen winner, a world champion, and a double Olympic champion. So if we reckon that all these teams can finish below 30, these three are well able to do it. And they're the second favourites, I'll give you that, behind the Brits right now going in. But they're ahead of everybody else.
Okay, alrighty. Germans, very, very strong. You can't argue with it. They've got 3 very, very good combinations. Any one of them could be on the individual podium, but let's go on to the next team. So you have got to keep moving. We've got to
go on.
Brits till the end. So we have talked a lot about them in the build up to this. We've talked about a lot of these combinations in the build up to this, but we will be coming on to the Brits very shortly. But first of all, let's talk about the Irish D, because they got a silver medal at the World Equestrian Games. Looking for an Olympic medal, we know how much it would mean to Sam. You know, there's a real personal connection there. All of us are going to be absolutely nervous wrecks watching from home. But what do you make of their team chances?
I would put them pretty close to France. I think they're good, not great, in terms of team chances. I want to set that in context. Same when I'm talking about the Germans, and I know it's the exact same for you guys when you're talking about the French or the Germans. Good, not great. We're talking about the top end of performance. We're talking about elite combinations who are at the Olympic Games. But if we're not willing to say good, not great, I don't think there's any point in being here. Let's recognize all these people are great. But when we go to Olympic medals, I think you've got to drill into something like, are any of the Irish horses that are currently there capable of delivering 25, 26, 27 dressage? Sarah Ennis has done it before on rebound. Sam has done it once or twice. Imperial Sky, I know he had a big result, a big good dressage test on Flamenco before he went. I know he's very happy with how Flamenco is going, but I'm going to ignore what he's telling me, in that I can only really apply the same logic to the data that I apply to everybody else. I think there's loads of people who are hoping to peak at the Olympics. That's the way they're all hoping to do it. But I do know from data that it doesn't happen that often as well, that you do your very best. I think Rua is a brilliant horse. She's a very special, very loved mare in Ireland. She's a great cross-country horse that I think could be very, very suited to the type of test that we're going to see here. when I say good, not great, I think it's not unrealistic to think that they're all capable of having a pole. They're all capable of jumping clear. So let's imagine it's one or two. Let's say it's one. Let's imagine it's two poles across the three horses. Maybe it's one. Let's imagine that they all do a dressage test of 30. I think that's good for Rua. I think that's okay for Rua. I think Sam's probably around there, and I think Garrison's probably around there. So maybe it's 31, 31, 31. Three dressage. Maybe that's a bit low for some. 30, 31.
The 6-run average for all three are Sam is 30.4, Sarah Ennis is 30.5, and Cahill is 31.4. So bang on.
30, 30, 30. All three of them, by the way, would tell us that they're better than that, and they've all done tests better than that. But we're trying to apply the same logic to everybody. They can all jump clear. They can all go inside the time. Again, Peter said it. Every single horse in here can. I think if they can get 3 jumping clears, their dressage will be better than, I'd say, like the Swedes, the Italians. It'll be close to the Japanese. It'll be close to the Kiwis. Kiwis won't be far ahead of them. In their minds, there will be a bit of a difference between the two. Ireland are a lot less established at this top level than the Kiwis, but they shouldn't feel any sense of inferiority.
Yeah, I agree. I think those 3 riders won't be thinking that, will they? Do like they are.
They won't. The 3 riders won't be. I mean, they're all absolutely oozing with confidence. But when you see Jesse and the 2 Prices, I think there's not going to be any doubt in terms of like name recognition. The Prices are going to be ahead of them. But Sarah Ennis has been in the top 5 at World Games. Sam Watson was on that World Games team and has been in the World FEI top 10 in the last couple of years, and Cahill has won the bronze medal at the last Europans. They're all confident. I don't think there'll be much between the Kiwis, the Irish. I think they're all reliant on maybe Absolute Gold having a 20 penalties and one of the Germans. I think they're reliant on mistakes.
I think you're saying that, and I think that's all kind of on that sort of a bit of an assumption that most of them were going to go clear. But if we're going to that rate of 50% aren't going to jump clear, these are 3 really strong competitors, strong characters that have been there, done it at the highest level, and been there when they've had to go in, show jump clear when the pressure's on. And I think the WEG result was a breakthrough for them as I know you're saying as a nation, but I think very much so as a nation for that support team that they've got there. And all credit to them that they put that together. I'd see them as having a really solid chance of coming back with a medal.
You make a really good point, actually, that we've been talking about potential, who's proven at championships, and actually all 3 of the Irish riders are proven at major championships under pressure. Some of the Brits still have to prove themselves. We've just questioned the Germans. There was a bit of questioning about the French. Actually, the Irish would fancy 3 clear rounds cross country, and how valuable is that going to be?
I think the point, actually, and I probably hadn't really appreciated it enough, the point, Nickers, here is all of these lads and lassies have, what we just say lads in Ireland, kind of referring to everybody. Lads. They've all jumped clear at championships.
Yeah.
Just all of them have done it. Like Cahill has gone and made it happen. Sam has gone and made it happen multiple times. World Game, like in terms of the actual Olympics and the World Games and the Europans, this lot have all done it. I think Sarah had a 20 cross country at WEG, maybe 2014. But I think, Sam had a 20 on flamenco. Was it flamenco at the Europans at Le Moulin? But he's jumped clear, like from, say, Kentucky 2010, pretty much every major championship subsequent to that. He's gone and done it. Cahill's gone and done it. Sarah's gone and done it. This lot are, they're battle hardened. They'll know what they're doing. They're in good frame of mind. Like Peter said, they all have a good chance. They actually all have a good chance. I think this is around 20%. It's in there with the Kiwis. The Kiwis will get more airtime, but actually, I think it's something like Ireland and France are very, very close to each other. And I said for France, good, not great. And I think it's good, not great. A great I'm reserving for GB and Germany. And this is the next tier, which is US, Australia, France, and Italy, or France and Ireland. And I have the US and Australia slightly ahead. We'll come to them on the next show. But I have GB against Germany, then I've got US against Oz, and then I've got France, Ireland, New Zealand, and Japan all battling it out. One mistake from any of these nations, and this all switches around. But that's the type of, they're in with a good shout.
It opens up massively. I'll just run through the three combinations for Ireland: Sam Watson, Flamenco; Sarah Ennis, Woodcourt, Garrison; Cathal Daniels, Rope and Rua. So they're the three. Okay, so Ireland, we've covered them. Right, tick the box. Let's go on to who is next. I think we should be talking about Sweden. Let's go Sweden. So the Swedish team is Ludvig Svennesdahl, Bella Mist, Louise Romaika and Kato 60, who put in that superb performance at Le Moulin in the 4-star, and Therese Wickland and Visera. So led by Ludvig Svennesdahl, who has been to, I think, every major championship for Sweden since 2012. The one thing I would say about the Swedes is they're the only country to win an individual medal outside of the Big Six, and that was Sarah Augustsson-Ossolt in London when she took the individual silver. And how different could that story have been? She had the final fence down, which cost her the individual gold medal, and Michael Young won the gold medal. But Sweden have actually won team medals at, isn't it, 3 of the last 4 European championships. You know, they have been consistently on the podium, and I feel like actually their time to put in a performance at the Olympics, they've been backing it up for the last few years, could well be in Tokyo.
You're just going to let that hang out there and hope that one of us takes the bait. And both myself and Spike are looking at each other being like, you can have that one, Spike.
No,
I'll
take it. I'll take it. I think this is bringing it down to a 3-person on the team. It for the slightly smaller nations, it really concentrates the skills and abilities and the talent that they've got in the nation. You know, and with Ludvig Svennesdahl, you've got a hugely talented rider with boatloads of experience riding multiple horses at the highest level, and has done it, many times. So I think he's a great figurehead for their team, and we're talking about characters and people that have shown what they can do at championships before. He's got plenty under his belt already, and he's still a pretty young guy. Louise Romaika as well, I think, is very under the radar. I think she's hugely talented and has a lot of skills and has done very well at the highest level as well. And the horse is also a horse that I think was ridden by her husband first, or produced by her husband.
Yeah.
And is now with her, and the dressage seems to be coming down, and the horse has got a huge amount of experience. So I think, that's another pretty, decent enough combination as well. So yeah, I think there's real strength there in that Swedish team.
I would say they're one to prove themselves. Louise has been to championships before. I think it is her, I want to say it's her first Olympics. I'll double check that. But Therese Wickland and Visera, Therese is making her championship debut for Sweden. Big old thing to make a championship debut at the Olympic Games. They aren't the quickest cross country. I mean, I say they aren't the quickest cross country. You can look back. You have to go back to a 1-star in 2016 to see them make the time. And that is basically one of only 3 occasions that the horse has ever made the time from 36 internationals in their career. So they're not, I wouldn't say, going to be the fastest ones out on the cross country.
Well, that is a big shout.
We'll do a good dressage, though. We'll do a strong dressage.
Did a 20-something at Picton, didn't they? 25, I think, at Picton.
25.9 at Picton. Yeah, she's a very, very good dressage rider. She remember her riding that horse called Diabolique. Can you remember, Dee, at Marville, when she was doing this amazing test in the Event Rider Masters, and then Belgium scored a goal in the Europeans that were running at the same time in the football, and the entire marquee erupted, as did poor Therese's horse.
And she still finished on like 25. I also remember her doing some massive test at Barbary, I think, one year, 2016, 2017.
But
I think was she not based with Chris Bartle for a while as well? I mean, I think that, the cross country will be coming. And again, solid cross country, she might not have to be the quickest. She might not have to be the clear inside the time that we're talking about. Jumping clear is going to be key. take 10 time, even if she can do a 25, 26 dressage, she's still going to be contributing to the chances of a team medal there. So that's what I think. It's actually a strong trio there. And I mean, it wouldn't be the biggest surprise in the world if they snuck into a team bronze by any stretch, because they've done that in the past at other championships.
Yeah.
You two, this is some podium that you two are creating.
Yeah, it's a massive podium. It's massive.
It's more like the steps of the Colosseum, I think, what you're doing. It starts.
I think basically, I just want to say I'm not going to be surprised if anyone gets on the podium, because
you're very much like that.
Yeah. I'm very unsurprised by the Olympics.
Apart from France, you crossed a line through them, Spike.
Literally, I thought he was going to be a lot more brutal.
I didn't put a line through them. I put a line through Bermain.
Literally, that was his exact words. He said, Tom Carlyle, how can we trust him, the Frenchie? I'm putting a line through Bermain.
You're going to be disappointed when you hear my podium then.
Right, Nicole, where are we off to? We're getting on a plane. We're going from Sweden. I'd say, what about, should we stop off and spend all the money we have in Switzerland?
Yeah, why not? Switzerland. Big Olympics for them. Qualified a team. Absolutely huge. And I think so let's just run over. So they're helped by Andrew Nicholson, which is a big old thing. And actually, I really like their 3 horses. So Felix Vogue has just had a horse change. He now has Calero, who's been top 10 at Kentucky 5-star, has been on a podium at an Event Rider Masters. Robin Godell, Jet Set. That's the horse that Andrew Nicholson had formerly won Bramham on. So it's a really, really nice horse. Melody, Jonah and Trouble Doré, who I'm telling you now, listeners, will be one of your horse crushes of the Olympic Games. He is the most beautiful grey unicorn. He's gorgeous. Watch out for him in the dressage. Go and put a little circle on your programs or whatever you're looking at and go and look out for him. But they're a really, really nice team. And I think Andrew Nicholson loves an underdog. Switzerland would be an underdog. They went up against the likes of Belgium and the Netherlands to get that last team spot at Buccleuch back in the end of 2019. I think they've got a great, great team. And yes, are we talking about, are they going to be on our Colosseum steps? Possibly not, but they're a really, really nice team. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Swiss rider in the top 10.
Yeah, they are a nice team, but they're maybe, that last horse you were mentioning there, that may be a wonderful grey unicorn, but the form is a little bit, well, you don't want to say weak, but is below the level of some of the others. But the 2 other, Jet Set is just the most amazing horse. I adore that horse. When Andrew was riding it, I thought it was a future world champion. And Felix Vogue is brilliant.
I think Calero will finish in the top 10, if I'm honest. I think that would be a dark horse that should be on lots of people's lips. In the kind of, he'll do a 20s dressage, very good cross-country horse, very few faults on his record, good show jumper.
I think has a few jumps, doesn't it?
Let me remind myself.
I just in my mind, I have to say I have to look it up now.
He did the mare last time out at Avanche. He knocked 3, but other than that, he's been clear at Barbarocco, clear at Marbach. Did a baby jumps at Randolphsville, jumped clear, and jumped clear at Protoni. No, he's a good jumper, Spike. He's had.
Fair enough.
I don't know. He's had he had a mare last time at Avanche, which is probably what's in your head. But I like Calero. Big fan of Calero. How could you not be a fan of Jet Set? Who's my last one? Melody. Ah, yes, you're right. Yeah, yes. True with the Ruhr. This is the interesting one, boys, because they do have a harder start in terms of the first phase, but their cross-country jumping is very, very good. Get me home. Get me 3 jumping clears home, and you're in with a shout here, lads. I really believe that. I agree with you. I don't know if we're putting them on the steps of the Colosseum, but they're not going to be a million. They're not actually going to be that far off it. That's the amazing thing that we have going on next Saturday week. No, actually next Saturday by the time this comes out. You're actually going to be looking at horses. You're going to be looking at a team like Switzerland, who I'm pretty sure qualified fairly late of the 16 teams. I think they were one of those 15, 16, weren't they?
Yeah.
You can't say they don't have a chance. It's probably about a 10% chance of a medal. And but you're actually talking about Ireland. Yeah, about that. And Ireland are about 20 to 25. And your top level is about 50. 50-50 chance of a medal is your top level. and the bottom is 10% chance of a medal. There's no point in being dismissive about any nation just because they're tiny and neutral. Switzerland have a great shout here. Do you want to put a big line through them? Do you want to put a line through them?
For being on my Colosseum podium? Yep.
Okay, a bit harsh, but all right.
We'll let you do it.
Yeah, I'll be watching with interest. I know Andrew Nicholson is going out there to help them. I still find it fascinating how strong the New Zealand team would be if he was on there, having won Barbary with Swallow Springs just a few weeks ago.
Don't say it.
There we go. Let's pull out the grenade, Nicole, and throw it in the window of the podcast.
Off it goes. No, let's go on to Italy. So we're into the last few nations. We've talked about Italy. They will be lining up with Vittoria Panisot, who was top 12 in London individually, Ride Supercilious this time, Ariana Schivo, Kufira de Lormeau, and Susanna Bordoni Imperial van der Holtaker. So good team. Again, I can't say that they would be making strides towards my podium, but what does everybody else think, Dee?
No, I don't know.
About a 10% chance of a podium, I reckon.
How many do all these percentages add up to? Like 500%?
Depends whether you ask me of gold or of a medal. That's a little trick for you. You need to think about how you're asking this. Okay, who's leading the charge? You'd have to say it's Panizzo, would we? In terms of the big recognizable names who've done it all before, scratch back the surface until you draw blood, and who is the people that are going to make it count. Vittoria has been.
Ariana Schivo has done very, very well, though, Dee. From the last championships.
Yeah, you're right.
She went double clear of badminton in 2019. It's a real cross country jumping clear horse again. Not the fastest, but if we're talking about the nations that we're just mentioning, if they get 3 horses clear cross country with some time round, they might not be a million miles away, as you say. That's how they're going to be competitive. So
I'll tell you one thing that I do think here is that these people might be not a million miles away, but there will be a jumping fault away, I think. You look at Ariana Schivo, you look at Vittoria, I think they're probably there's these 3 levels really of the competition. There's the top end of the London, the Ballymore class, the Toledo, the Chipmunk, the 20s. Okay? 20 is not outrageous. They're actually going in there to try and set an Olympic record, I would say. Then you've got Sam Watson, and you've got Nicola Tuzon, and you've got maybe Julia Krajewski, and I think they're somewhere between 25 and 30. Good day, bad day, they can all land anywhere in that group. And then I think you've got this lot, and Calero probably, Felix Vogt, I think, is in that last group. But then I think you got this lot, and I think this lot is 30 to 35. Good day, bad day. And if you have 2 of them that are in the 30s, I think that's 20 penalties away from the podium. So you can't afford a mistake. I think the Brits could carry a 20 and finish ahead of the Italians. When I say a million miles away, I think we're now getting into the bracket where the Brits and the Germans are probably 20 penalties clear. And the Irish are probably 10 clear, and it adds
they could be using a substitution and still being ahead. We haven't even discussed that.
That's not.
Oh God, the substitution
Peter
for another show.
What I mean is, and this is no disrespect. What I mean is, there is a point at which you have to say that 3 clears doesn't guarantee you anything. When I think did the Canadians do it? The Canadians.
What about the Dutch in WEG at Caen? They had 3 clears, and that got them got them up because of the other nations.
Got them a bronze, didn't it?
Yeah.
That's the one I always think.
But by the way, the Nicole's favorite trivia there is, that actually it was 2. I think it was the only 1 clear round for that German team. 1 clear round of the 4, so they had to count 2 20s in there. Isn't that correct?
Yeah.
They counted 2 20s, which means they had to have 3 20s.
But they had, Samurai Duto was their 4th score, and that was much, much higher. I don't even know if they completed. I don't think they did.
No.
They were eliminated. So they counted the 220 penalties, and they were still only a pole off gold behind the French. That's how good. Right,
that's how good their dressage was. Okay, so right, we're going to have to put our line through some.
Onto the two individual nations. So the Dutch.
The poor Polish team with their 10% chance of a medal. You completely skipped over them.
Yeah, let's take off the glad rags and head for a stag.
Pavel Spisak, and Banderas. What an amazing horse.
Had a really heavy fall in Rio, but have been very, very consistent at the top level. Pavel was based with Michael Young. Not sure if he still is actually, but was based with him for a very long time. Then Malgorzata Kibolska and Chinaris 2, and then Joanna Paulak and Fantastic Frida. Both of those combinations I'm not over familiar with.
I think Fantastic Frida kicked me at a trot up in Stragom. I think that's all I know about it.
I think we've had this before as well, I think, actually. Yeah,
I think so.
Tell you what, there's a point at which you've got to turn away from data and recognize the journey and the excitement and the fun of the story as well. Fantastic Frida, let's be honest, they're going to do a 40 or so dressage. But let's embrace the fact that they're at an Olympic Games.
Yeah, it's
an incredible achievement. And sometimes I never want these shows to ever feel anyway unfriendly. I think it's okay to sometimes have a joke about Tom Carlyle versus Julia versus Laura, because we're talking about people at the very top end who are fighting it out to win. And at top level sport, you do want to have people fighting it out to win. What makes this sport interesting is that there's an awful lot of people who are on a journey that's not always easy. In fact, every single person is on a journey that's not easy in this sport, even if they are fighting it out to win at the very top end. So I don't like Fantastic Frida. I'm looking here at their record. You know, they're somewhere around the 40 dressage mark. They're going to be not too far off the bottom, I would say, after the first phase. But they're a good enough jumper. You know, they're going to get time penalties, and they're good enough show jumper. They're finishing kind of in the 60s. They're not going to win the Olympics, but they're there. They're competing. They're representing their country in Tokyo at an Olympic Games, and I think sometimes it's okay to say fair play to them. They're out there doing it. They've been on a journey that has resulted in them being at the pinnacle of their sport from their country, and you just have to kind of let that be at that. There might be at the bottom of the hill, but they're at a fairly impressive old hill all the same.
That was very well put.
Right, thank you. Let's move on. Where are we off to?
Okay, off to, we'll briefly mention the two individuals from the Netherlands, Meryl Blom, the quizmaster, and also Laura de Liederkerke-Meyer, the lovely Laura de Liederkerke-Meyer for Belgium, who are the two individual riders for those two countries, both of whom I think will feel very disappointed still that they did not get a team qualified. But Laura de Liederkerke-Meyer, Alpaca d'Arville, he's a really good horse. He's a very solid cross-country jumping machine, has jumped clear in both of their runs it's taken at 5-star level, isn't it, Dee? So when we talk about the Olympics, even though it's not strictly 5-star, we class it as a 5-star on the basis that it is one of the biggest events in the world.
When you say we class it as a 5-star, what do you mean? Ratings?
The Royal rating. So if I'm saying they've been to the level twice before, they haven't been.
I think the FEI class it as a 5-star, don't they?
Yeah.
No, they now class it. This is all changing. They now class it as Olympic level. They don't. It actually is its own level. They don't really class it as a 5-star, but it is 5-star dressage and 5-star jumping. But it's kind of 4-star. It's somewhere between 4-star short and 4-star long cross country, depending on basically the humidity and kind of, as you said, Spike, the like the playing conditions as they unfold. It'll be a bit of a shorter track, and it'll be a bit more inclusive, I think is the word that they will use. Won't be 5-star quality, but it will be 5-star. It's all its own level, Nicole.
You tell the people that went in Rio it wasn't 5-star. That was
they were, but it changed after that. It changed after that. So Tryon versus Rio Tryon was the first at the new level.
Right.
It's nothing like making it easy for people new to the sport to understand, is it? With all these different levels. It's very confusing.
And then we're going to say, by the way, it used to be 3 from 4, now it's 3 from 3.
It's so anyway, Laura de Liederkerke-Meyer, this horse has been top 20 at the European Championships in Le Moulin. We're clear inside the time cross country there. Can have a few show jumping, but I'm pretty certain actually this was actually a horse that was homebred by the Liederkircher family, which is always particularly special to get a homebred horse. Here's a horse I made at home. Homebred horse to the Olympic Games. So that is very, very cool. And then the other being Meryl Blom and the Quizmaster, who are representing the Netherlands. And I think, you can feel for Tim Lips, who would have been one of the favourites with Biro for an individual medal if we'd have been looking, 2 years ago, would have been talking about the Olympics, and they would have been very much in that level of conversation. And he isn't even at the Olympic Games here. But this horse was third at Sopot in the 4-star format last year, I think it was. So
don't skip over this horse, because the Quizmaster is impressive and Meryl is seriously impressive. This pair, I think, are in the, we're talking about that Sam Watson, Felix Vogue territory, 25 to 30 finish. The Quizmaster's in there for me. Meryl Blom is well able to do a dressage test. She's got the experience with Rumour Has It. If you look at their recent tests, 30, 31, 32, 31, 30, like very, very consistent. Strigom last year, 28.4. Pratoni a couple of years ago, 27.9. This isn't a 35 to 40 horse. This is a horse knocking on the door of the high 20s, probably finishing in the low 30s. This is a horse that has very, very few cross-country falls, a little bit of time, maybe knocks a couple into jumping. But Meryl Blom, the Quizmaster, will be probably not win an individual medal, won't be too far outside the top 20 at the Olympics.
The Dutch will be very much hoping for a good individual result.
what a political finish that you gave that.
I know that was so like media trained. Oh, they'll be looking for a wonderful back on that button. What a joy! Right. Now let's move swiftly on to the Brits, because we have waited until the Brits.
Oh, we're here at last.
We're here. And do you know what? We're very aware that, we talk about a lot of these horses in the build up to Tokyo. We've talked about London 52 and Laura Collett, Ballamore Class, Oliver Town and Tom McHugh and Toledo de Cursa a lot. Now, we can't obviously not talk about them on the preview show, but we wanted to make sure that everybody had some airtime as well, and we can now fully fight it out over the British. I'll put it out there and say we need to be fair. So we have been picking holes in the rest of the teams, and very much talking about where there is a chink in the armour. I would say this British team actually are going into these games with a huge amount of pressure. They are all 5-star winning combinations. The expectation is that they will win gold. The Brits have not won gold at an Olympic Games since Munich in 1972. It's been a long time. So,
I mean, in general, Brits don't do very well with high levels of expectation. I mean, in any sport, in any field,
it's coming home,
anywhere.
It's coming.
Yeah, exactly. That went well. I mean, it feels really mean picking holes in people that we kind of go and see and meet every day or every week and things like that. But I mean, I think you can. I think we're going to have to. And if we were going to do that, I mean, I think we go back to that conversation you were saying at the beginning, Dee. If we were going, right, we need a final score of 90 to win this. It feels as though we're going, right, we're just going to pick the three, I think, the three best combinations. I mean, if these guys all perform, you're looking at a finishing score of 75 or something mental, aren't you? I mean, you're looking at something absolutely mental. And there is got to be a little bit of risk associated with some of them. I mean, we can go through each of them individually about their performances at championship levels. I wouldn't question any of their characters directly by any stretch of the imagination, but when it's just going about what's been done, if we're going to pick holes in Julia Krajewski at a championship level, you would have to say the same for Laura. Sadly, the horses. The gold medal individual big shout for a gold medal individual, but they've still got to go and do it on the day and show that determination, that grit, and everything that she came through across with in your interview with her, Nicole, which was superb. And Oliver Townend, I think he's someone that he was on the team that came back with medals, but being a counting score and really performing to the maximum of the horse with his finishing score at the championships as well. That's got to be a little bit of a question mark. And I think outside of that, the only thing I would just chuck in there is I would personally have bits of concern that, these horses have been up and in full training and competing at the very, very high level for quite a protracted period of time here. There is no way that Fisher Chipmunk was having to be at his best at preparation events to get on a team. There is no way that there were combinations in other nations that are going for individual gold that others that would have had to have prepared in the same way. And there's positives and negatives to that, I'm sure. But I do know that these horses would have probably been in full work since January.
And they've had to be bloody negative.
As a vet, I see it as a bit of a negative. I'm concerned. I think in racing, for example, you never know you've got a horse that's overtrained or gone over the top until that first race when they don't perform to their maximum. And you don't know about it. And overtraining is slightly underappreciated, underknown in horses. In humans, it's hugely appreciated, and particularly the mental aspect of it. So I do have little concerns about that. And that to me, that would be something at the back of my mind. These horses have been asked to be prepared to the moment for quite a protracted period of time. And, lucky that we've got some brilliant support program there, and the support team and the selectors and, Chris Bartle, the team vet, Richard Waygood, all the physios, everyone that's out there to support these horses are absolutely superb. I have that at the back of my mind. And sadly, you don't, that sort of, looking at a few percent here and there in extreme conditions, I worry about that. But maybe I just worry because I'm a Brit and I don't expect things.
No, look, I think it's good. And again, I think it's important to have the conversation, because the easy conversation here is to talk about 3 horses that can all do a 23 or below dressage test, that can all clearly go clear inside the time, and they'll all probably will jump double clear. Oh, and when I mean double clear, I mean two show jumping rounds. London 52 and Toledo, Don't Knock Poles, Ballymore Class. Nicole, I'd have to mention it again. Oliver speaking to you directly, looking down the camera after Kentucky and saying some people thought I would knock a pole. I enjoyed that, but he doesn't knock too many. So look,
some people didn't think you'd have a time fight at badminton. So goes both ways, Oliver.
I think you're dead right, Spike. I think on straight up form, you can't argue with any of those horses. But on straight up form, I think you've also got to take into account the character. And if you want to talk about 5-star winners, I'll give you a double Olympic champion, an Aachen winner, and a world champion. Yeah. So they're all at those 2 teams, by the by, and we're going to come to Australia next in the next show. But these boys and girls are all at the top end of their game. What's fascinating, and Nicole, come to you on this, what's fascinating is look who the Brits are leaving behind. So not because I want to dwell on All-Star B, Piggy French and Kitty King as just the next 3, and probably the 3 after that wouldn't have been 2, would finish ahead of an awful lot of nations here as well. But not because of that, but because of what it potentially does mentally or physically, in that they're going out and they're having to perform at Bicton, but also all of these riders have known for probably now, because you think of the cancellation as well, it's probably 18 months where you are literally competing at the top end, fighting it out just to get here. And I think it's worth at least asking the question as to whether the race is run just by getting to Tokyo. To finish ahead of Piggy, Kitty, Brookfield Innocent, All-Star B and Vondrey B, it's just to get here. I think you've had to give so much mentally and to some degree physically late in the day that Germans didn't
very much agree. I do very much agree, but I would say I could equally give you a positive that London 52 has improved as a horse in the last 12 months immeasurably. His confidence cross country, that combination, going out, making the time over decent tracks. He is a long way further forward in that partnership.
He wouldn't have been going last year. He couldn't have gone last year, yeah.
He wouldn't have gone last year. It goes both ways as well, because confidence, winning gives you confidence. You become in that winning mentality, don't you? It's something we've talked about with the German team a lot. They go out and they run competitively, and they run very much to put the results on the board. Now,
do you think it's a Chris Bartle thing, Nicole, that's come from Germany to the British system? That sort of come in.
I find it fascinating because we've seen, the likes of William Fox-Pitt and Pippa Funnell and plenty of other riders that have been at the top level for Team GB for many, many, many years. And they would only really ever run competitively at those major championships. Personally, I like to see competitive results going into a championship, because you want to be sharp, you want to be fresh. It obviously depends on your horse. I know they've spoken, Toledo de Cursa for one is one that you let the handbrake off once, then you need to put it back on again because he gets very full of himself. So you save that for the bigger occasions. But also, I don't think it does them any harm to be riding on that night. There's that really fine balance when we're talking about, the individual gold medal, for example. There's that really fine balance between going for those huge marks. Laura Bicton, for example, broke in her half pass because she was riding for a 10. She wasn't riding for a safe 7. So therefore, you're always on that slight knife edge. And that's what makes them so brilliant. I don't think it's a bad thing they've been doing it, but I do completely get your point of they've been under a lot of pressure. They've been competing, fast, regularly. Not over regularly, they've all been pretty careful with the runs that they've done, but it's a discussion point, isn't it?
It's not just that though, Nicole. It's the trade. It's the week in, week out stuff. I have to say as well. That just I at a turn or anything like that. But I mean, I think there would be plenty of horses that might have been wanting. If they'd been in that training, they might be crying out for 2 weeks in the field to chill.
I was going to say there on that one. So Toledo de Cursa and London 52 for Tom and Laura haven't done a long format this spring. Ballamore Class, on the other hand, has. So he would have been in a lot of work earlier on in the season and would have come out absolutely firing, went to Kentucky. However, he did come home and have a holiday.
Yeah.
And he did go out in the field and have a bit of a break and a letdown prior to obviously building back up again for the Tokyo. So, but that this is also his second long haul flight of the year. So it is fascinating.
But he performed brilliantly at Kentucky, though, didn't he? D like he he jumped on the final day better than I think I've seen the horse jump for a little while. Actually,
well, he made it happen.
He
made it happen cross country. It's the same a little bit with Laura at Poe. He had there was a part of that cross country round that he had to dig in and make it happen. And Oliver, I think, his quick reactions and his rider skill and rider speed made it happen. Let me say one thing about this. The Brits are under serious pressure, and they're under serious pressure on this side of the world in the same way as, by the way, the Americans will be under serious pressure, but from Eventing Nation and Chronicle, and those 3 riders will be under some scrutiny because all the media is sitting there watching them on that side of the world. Over on this side of the world, all like Horse and Hound and everybody else will have we know more about these 3. We know what to eat for breakfast in a way that happens with the English football team and the English rugby team, in a way that's not happening to Sam Watson, Sarah Ennis and Cathal Daniels right now, in a way that's not happening to Felix Vogue or Robin Goodell, or, you go through all these nations. We're not walking around papping pannets on, but if Laura Collett sneezes, we need to know that has happened. Now, what I think is what's fascinating, I've just got a message in from Sean Murray here, which is the actual team predictions. It'll be out by the time this pod is released, so I don't mind saying it. But he's rerun everything because, Kai 44 was being brought in and there was a couple of other changes, Calero coming in. He's rerun everything. What I'm looking at here is there's very little, almost no difference between a top 2 and a top... basically, the podium chance of Great Britain is 57% and the podium chance of Germany is 56%. Now, there's a bit of a difference for the gold, 38 for Britain and 28 for Germans. But what I want you to hear is actually 57% podium, 51% top 2. It would be seen as an absolute disaster if the Brits don't bring home a medal. It's 57%. It's only a little bit more than a toss of a coin.
I think that's tough, and I agree with you there. And it's up to us to put the pressure on them. I mean, I think it would only be seen as a disaster because we know.
Not a disaster, but
I think a disaster because no, you're right. In some ways, it would because we know the strength that's been left behind. And that's almost the pressure that drives them. But they've got to harness that. They've got to harness that and take confidence from it. We are this good because we are on the team, and look what we've had to leave behind.
But you are in a sport
that from that.
A single fault could potentially knock you off the podium, and this is a sport where single faults happen all the time. And I don't think that's really appreciated. Do you think really that Twitter or any of our forums are actually going to all be actually talking about chance variation when someone has a 20 penalties and the Brits don't finish on the podium? No way. You can be the best in the world 1 minute and the worst in the world the next, and it can be a single poll going up or down. 2012, we talked about Sarah Olgetsson-Osholt or Michael Young. The Michael Young story now looks like he's going to be an Olympic champion 3 times if he's able to win here. One poll for someone else, not even in his control, and this isn't happening because Sarah Olgetsson-Osholt is an individual gold medal winner in 2012. I think what I'm trying to say here is that these are 3 supremely talented people who will have huge pressure on them. And all I can tell you is it's pretty much just a little bit more than the toss of a coin, whether they finish on the podium or not. It's less than the toss of a coin whether they finish in the top 2. Well, it's just more, 51%. But that's chance in this sport. With 3 counting scores from 3 and with the likelihood of getting 3 horses home with no jumping penalties and the likelihood of finishing ahead based on how this sport is scored, you're looking at pretty much a toss of a coin, whether it's gold or silver. So let's pile the pressure on them, sure, but let's always remember that they're actual heroes for being here and for representing Britain, for making it to Tokyo, representing that British team in this particular era is a massive achievement. The same as I was talking about Fantastic Frida there a minute ago. It's an incredible hill to have climbed to be representing Great Britain in 2020, 2021. To be ahead of a world champion who's getting subbed in. A world champion getting subbed in. How high does your performance levels have to be to leave Brookfield Innocent at home, to leave Vendredi Beats at home, and multiple others? This is an incredible 3, but I think love them, mind them, respect them, look after them on social media, cheer them on as your Brit team, but know how this sport works, and this is a sport that works on toss of a coin.
And those little, immediately you get the, when the moment there's a run out, so and so wouldn't have had a run out there, or so and so, and that's such a negative mindset, and social media is. So hopefully we can all get together, we can all just support. We've got a wonderful group of people going out there, whatever nation it is. It's going to be a brilliant competition, and I tell you, the ones that stand at the top of our Colosseum steps will have really, really earned it.
Agree completely. Pressure is a privilege. But ultimately, every single athlete going out to the Olympic Games has gone on a remarkable journey, has made so many sacrifices along the way to get to this point. And we have got a brilliant week of sport ahead of us, a brilliant few weeks of sport in general. But in terms of the eventing, it is going to be an absolute masterclass of eventing. And we are lucky enough to be able to watch it. And sure, plenty of people would love to be in Tokyo, but enjoy it wherever in the world you're watching it, wherever you are tuning in from, whoever you are supporting, enjoy it. Enjoy watching some top class eventing. It is going to be brilliant. I cannot wait. I'm so excited. It feels like the Olympics are here. We should say at the start of this show as well, listeners. So we are recording this. We started at 2:00. It's now 4:00, but 2:00 on a Wednesday afternoon, and Dee said he was going off to the toilet before we started, came back with a Prosecco and a glass, promptly cracked it open, and has been enjoying a toast to the Olympic Games. I wish I'd joined you,
Nicole. I kind of feel like I've run my own race on the Wednesday before Tokyo. I'm absolutely shattered, and we've only done Europe, lads. We've the rest of the world. We've the rest of the world to go. Thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for sticking with us. What a journey it's been so far.
I was going to say, listeners, this is a huge, huge few weeks, and it is nothing without you guys, wherever in the world, because people are tuned into this podcast in about 100 different countries. So I'm sure all of those teams we've talked about will have supporters cheering them on that have been listening to this show. But whoever you support, good luck. We will be absolutely cheering along with you. We all have our favourites, and we'll all be very patriotic, but we will be cheering along with you. Guys, thank you so much. We have still got the Rest of the World show to record. Dee, it's nearly here.
It's nearly here. Right. Peter, thank you. We'll be talking, I'm sure, pretty much daily from now on. Go enjoy some family time. Thank you for giving up your time on your holiday to be part of this. Nicole, thank you as always. I know you had to put in place lots of arrangements to make to fit around my schedule, and I appreciate that. You're very good to do it. I want to leave you with a stat, lads. Something just this is a present for the people who've stuck with us for this long, because they've probably had to do this podcast in sessions because we've gone on for so long. So anyone who's made it to the end, I want to give you a little stat that might not appear anywhere else. Talk about pressure. Only once since 1964 has the dressage leader gone on to win.
Is that
Only
in the
once. That's the individual winner, yeah.
Okay.
That's David O'Connor, 19.3, custom made, all the way back in Sydney 2000. But other than that, you're looking at, Young was in 5th, Young was in 11th, Henrik Romica was in 7th, Leslie Law was in 10th. Lads, this is not, there's so much to go. Once since 64 has that dressage leader held on. So whoever the dressage leader is, prepare to have an Echo graphic rain on your parade in the middle of the night. But anyway, that's it. That's for another day, lads. Thanks a million, Nickers. You sign off as the boss.
Oh, do you know what? It's been brilliant. And we will have the Rest of the World preview show coming for you very shortly. And our podium selections, along with a whole host of friends of the podcast, their selections as well, will be out in the next few days. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, God, get in touch. Let us know what you think. Tell us we're wrong. Tell us we're right. Tell us what you think will happen in Tokyo. We would love to hear from you. But for now, Spike, thank you. Dee, thank you. Listeners, thank you. We'll be back very soon with more. Thank you for listening to the Echo Ratings Eventing podcast.
Have a wonderful day, everybody, and I look forward to having you back with us soon.
Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram for more.
Listeners, we'll speak to you again soon.
One of the most sophisticated brands in the equestrian market, Cavalleria Toscana has the ambition to create products that make technical sportswear look elegant while still supporting the rider's performance each step of the way. From top quality, super stylish competition wear to fashionable clothing suitable for riding in at the highest level and wearing every day, such as comfortable breeches and stylish sweatshirts. Cavalleria Toscana brings together a range of matching equine outfits for both horse and rider. Visit zebraproducts.co.uk for more. When it comes to incorporating the latest technology, performance fabrics and innovative design, Bucas rugs are the choice of professional riders and horse owners from all over the world. From the Shamrock Cooler range, travel and stable rugs, through to the power turnout rugs, travel boots and accessories, Bucas is a name synonymous with outstanding quality. With all of their products developed with the well-being of horses at the forefront, together with time-saving technology for the owners, Bucas pride themselves in ensuring that your horse always wears the very best. It really is the intelligent choice, and you can purchase the range through Zebra Products. Tucci Time prides itself with its expertise, skill and precision for the best in equestrian riding boots. Think premium quality materials meeting Italian design, perfection toward innovation, art pieces manufactured to perform at the very top level. Tucci riding boots are the highest expression of craftsmanship, savoir-faire and the heritage of the Tucci family tied to their crystalline creativity. Tucci manufacture unique riding boots with their own story and soul, and they fit you like your very favourite thing. Tucci riding boots are now available to purchase through Zebra Products.